Fiancé breaks up with me and leaves me with his sick son. His parents have now kicked him out of the house and given it to me. F32 and M38 have been engaged for more than 8 months now. We've been living together in his house for a year now. He has an autistic 7-year-old child from a previous marriage who gets sick often. The boy needs a lot more care and attention. The other week, my fiancé called him from a state about 6 hours away. It was his ex-wife. He told me that he had to go help her because there was an emergency. I was shocked because they don't usually talk to each other besides talking about their son's care. Still, I knew that problems happen, so I said yes. He left the same day and said he would probably be back in 2 or 3 days. After a week, he still hasn't come back. I call him every day, and he always tells me the same thing: he'll be back soon, but it's taking longer than planned. But he never gives me any details about what is really going on. I'm here by myself taking care of his son for now. It is pretty tough. I still care about the boy, even though I'm not qualified to meet his specific needs. During his meltdowns, I don't know how to keep him under control. Being sick with a fever for a few days now is scary for me, because I don't know much about his health background. Simple tasks that I'm not always sure how to do for him need my help. I'm getting more upset and worried every day. Why won't my fiancé tell me what kind of emergency it is? What's taking so long? I'm starting to wonder if there isn't something else going on, or if there really is an emergency. When I ask him directly what's wrong, he dodges the question by saying, "It's complicated," or "I'll explain when I get back." I'm not sure what to believe. Part of me thinks he might be lying about the whole thing because I think something important has happened. Dealing with his son all the time wears me out. This is way more than I signed up for, but I love the boy. I'm not his parent, so I shouldn't be his only family carer for a long time. I'm afraid I'll mess up if I do something wrong. What bothers me even more is that my fiancé doesn't seem to understand how hard this is for me. When I call, he doesn't really ask how we're doing. He hasn't offered to come back or send someone else to help. It's like he forgot about us. No one knows what to do. I'm totally lost, but I can't leave his son alone. But I'm afraid of going too far or making trouble. It occurs to me that I might call my fiancé's parents to ask if they could come help. I don't want to make my fiancé feel bad if he is dealing with a real emergency. Am I responding too much? Should I wait longer, or is this really as strange as I think it is? I am starting to have doubts about our relationship as a whole. What is the fact that he could leave us like this without saying anything about his love for me and our future? I would really appreciate any help. Has anyone else been in a situation like this? What do you think I should do? Yes, this blew up overnight. I value your responses and help in general. I'm going to try to answer some questions that are asked a lot. No, I have not texted him. He answers, but in the same vague way. No, I don't know how to get in touch with his ex-wife. I've never seen her before. Even though his son goes to special education, school is out for the summer. I've been able to take care of him around the clock since I work part-time from home, altogether for 2 years. I've known my fiancé's kid for a lot of that time. Still, I've never been away from him for more than 1 day at a time. Many of you tell me to call the cops in his ex-wife's city to see if he is okay. I'm thinking about it, but I don't want to start trouble if there is a family issue. It seems like I should give him 1 more day to give me a good reason. If he doesn't, I'll try calling his parents first, and then I might call the cops. There are some of you who want to know more about our friendship and his first marriage. I'll talk about what I know. He was married to his ex-wife for 9 years. They split up when their child was 4 years old. From what he told me, the stress of having a child with special needs was a big reason why they broke up. His ex-wife fought because she was depressed and had too much to do. They decided to break up even though they first thought about going to counseling. The split wasn't very bad, but it wasn't great either. The main thing that made them disagree was how they took care of and housed their son. In the end, they agreed that my fiancé would have primary custody. His ex comes to see him once a month, plus once during the summer and winter breaks. My fiancé says that his ex-wife has a hard time with his rules, even though she loves their son. She agreed to having less control because of this. She's often late, but she pays child support. My fiancé doesn't like talking about my mom, but he has noticed that she has been having a hard time since the split. I think he meant mental health, or maybe drug troubles, even though he never said for sure. When we met, my fiancé had been divorced for about a year. He told me straight out that he had a child with special needs and made sure I knew what I was getting into. I respect his kid, because I know that is what he cares about most. One thing about him I like the most. He is a great dad who loves his kids very much. Our friendship grew very quickly. After meeting for a year, we moved in together, and 4 months later he asked me to marry him. In general, things have been pretty good. He is nice to me, is responsible. And up until now, we haven't had many big problems getting used to living as a mixed family. That's why this is such a bad and confused situation. It goes against his nature for him to leave us like this and be so quiet. I kept wondering if there were any red flags or other signs along the road that I had missed. Since many people have asked, here are a few more details about his son. He is 7 years old. He mostly uses software on his computer and some simple signs to talk when his plans get thrown off or he gets too excited. He often has temper tantrums. Because he is allergic to or sensitive to many foods, he needs to follow a certain diet. He also has epilepsy, which is mostly under control with medicine, but still gives him seizures sometimes. He is very small for his age and has trouble with some of his movement skills. He needs help going to the toilet, getting dressed and washing. He wears pull-ups at night and sometimes during the day if we're going to be gone for a long time. He goes to a special education program that offers speech training during the school year. Occupational treatment and other help is available. He usually needs to be watched all the time, even at home. He usually wakes up several times at night and has a hard time going back to sleep. I have helped take care of him before, but always with my fiancée by my side. The first thing I've done is take full responsibility for him, which is hard. It scares me to think about doing something wrong or ignoring a sign that he needs medical help. Some people told me to get help from his therapist or doctor. That's a good thought. I'm likely to do that today. I'll make a list of all of his doctors and try to figure out what to do next. I'm not sure about the following things I will do with my fiancé. Part of me thinks this is wrong, no matter what the reason is, but another part of me wants to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll think about it while I sleep and decide in the morning whether to call the police or his parents. I want to thank you again for all your help and support. I'll make changes when I get more information. I've got some news, but it's not great. I finally gave up this morning and called my fiancé's parents. Even though they knew he was out of town, they didn't mind and drove right over to help their grandson. I decided to be brave and call the cops in the city where his ex-wife lives to ask if they were okay while they were on the road. The police officer I talked to felt bad for her and said they would send someone to her home. After about an hour, the police called me again. They say that they are in touch with my fiancé and his ex-wife. Both are good. There is no danger here. The police officer couldn't give more details because of privacy laws, but he made it clear that there was no proof of any crime or danger. Finally, my fiancé called while I was getting this information together with my future in-laws. He told me he was going home right away to explain everything to me in person, because he knew I was upset and confused. He told me not to make any choices until we could talk about them in person. Not sure what to think. I am relieved that he is okay, but I am also angry and hurt. What possible reason could there be for leaving us like this? His parents are just as confused and hurt as I am. They have offered to stay with us until he gets back tonight late. I'm grateful for their help with their grandson, but I'm dreading the talk that's coming up. It looks like our whole relationship has been called into question. I'll let you know again after we talk. Thanks for your help with this crazy situation. Change 2. It's been hours since I last looked at my screen, trying to find the right words to explain what happened. I said I would let you all know, so here it is. As I type this, my hands are shaking, and I still can't believe it's true. Instead of coming home last night, as planned, my fiancé called. I sent him a message right away. Seeing his name on my phone made me feel relieved. That kind of relief didn't last long. He said, "I'm not coming home," in a strangely calm voice. "I'm going to stay with Sarah." His ex-wife was the woman he said needed help right away. I felt like someone had stabbed me in the gut. "What do you mean you're not going home?" I was able to stop breathing. "How is your son? What about us?" He didn't speak again for a long time. We've chosen to try to get married again, Sarah and I. After getting back in touch over the past week, we both agree that this is the right thing to do. It was hard for me to breathe. This can't be happening this way. However, I said, "But your son, you are needed by her. He has autism. He needs things to be consistent and on time. You can't just leave him. Still more time to wait." His voice was softer, almost ashamed, as he spoke again. After talking about it, we both agree that it would be too hard to take care of a child with such high needs while our relationship is getting better. We think it would be best for him to stay with you and my parents for now. What I saw was crimson. This is not something that the man I knew, the loving dad I had grown to love, would ever say. Wouldn't leave his child, especially one who has special needs. Because your autistic son gets in the way of your new plans, you're leaving him? The surprise turned into anger in me, and I growled. "What are you? I don't know you very well right now." I didn't pay attention when he tried to explain his actions. I told him straight out how sick and hurt I felt. I called him a lie, a coward, and a bad dad. I told him I was going to tell the police that his son had been left behind. You can't hold protests every week. I grabbed and hung you up. As my head spun, I sat there for a few minutes in shock and silence. Then I heard a little voice behind me. Where is Dad? When I turned around, I saw her fiancé's son held up his iPad at the opening. Once more, my heart began to break. How should I go about telling him this? I put him back to sleep by vaguely telling him that Dad would be home soon. It didn't feel right. I called his parents when he was already asleep. When they got there an hour later, they looked confused and scared. I told them everything and helped them sit down. His father's face turned redder and redder as I talked, and his mother started crying. When I was done, his dad yelled, "What about your son that would be too hard or too challenging? I will show you how to do the task." His mom had tears in her eyes and was shaking her head. She said over and over, "I don't understand. He's not like this at all. He loves that boy more than anything else." We stayed up most of the night, feeling sad, unsure, and angry at different times. Before dawn, we had a plan. First, we went to the police station. The police were a little worried when we told them what happened. They told us they were going to look into child neglect and got statements from all of us. The officer told us that cases involving kids with special needs are taken very seriously. We are going to look into this very carefully. The next thing we did was talk to a lawyer about family law issues. I wasn't legally married to his son, so I didn't have any rights to him. But because they are his next of kin, his parents could ask for immediate custody. The lawyer worked quickly on the papers. During this whole thing, my phone kept buzzing with texts and missed calls from my fiancé. I didn't pay much attention to any of them. What he said and the way he said it made me sick. When we got home, his parents put me down at the kitchen table. Even though they looked tired and hurt, their eyes shone with a strong will. "We have made a decision," his father remarked, his voice austere but emotionally charged. "We're drowning him." I blinked unexpectedly. "Are you clear?" "That is a major stride." His mother nodded, blotting away a tear. "We cannot respect what he has done, abandoning his child and lying to all of us. It is unchangeable. Even though he is our kid, we want nothing to do with someone who would do that. Our son raised him better than this," his father said. "I know I can't call. Someone who would abandon their special needs child's son. I'm not sure what's gotten into him," I nodded, too familiar with their suffering and resentment. His mother said, "We also wanted to talk about the house and our grandson. We want you to stay here for as long as you need to. We know this has been crazy, and we don't want you to have to worry about where to live on top of everything else." I tried to say something, but she stopped me with a hand. "Our child trusts you, and you've been great. We think it's best for him to stay with you for now, where he knows what to do. Because we want him to be as stable as possible, we will take care." But it made sense for tears to come to my eyes. Their kindness was amazing, especially since they were going through a lot of pain. "Thank you," I managed to whisper. The following several days passed as a haze of activity. We visited social workers, and had many sessions with the kid of my ex-fiancé, attempting to explain what was occurring in words he could grasp. Seeing his uncertainty and anguish was terrible. Not understanding why his dad wasn't returning home, he kept asking for him. Though we did our best to console him, how would you explain to a 7-year-old autistic boy that his father had left him? My ex kept text messaging and calling. At last I read some of his messages. They combined requests for understanding, apologies, and defenses. He said he still loved his son, but felt this was for the best. He mentioned that Sarah and he were intending to start over in another state, saying it would just complicate matters. He urged me not to notify the authorities. I ignored all of it. Instead, I forwarded every correspondence to the investigator working on the matter. The days stretched into weeks, and we adjusted to a different schedule. Parents of my ex visited daily to assist with their grandson. Knowing how vital routine was to him, we cooperated to keep his calendar as nearly perfect as I put myself into studying all I could on raising an autistic child. I visited with his doctors and therapists, joined internet support groups, and read books. Though at times it was overwhelming, I was resolved to do right by this small child who had gone through so much. Through it all, his grandparents were really outstanding. They were there for every minor triumph, every sleepless night, every meltdown. Though I knew they were still working through their own loss and resentment over their son's behavior, they never grumbled. About 1 month after everything transpired, one evening I was sitting on the porch after at last getting my ex's son asleep. His granny came out to sit next to me. "How are you holding up, sweetheart?" she questioned softly. I grumbled and ran a hand over my hair. "I'm managing. Though difficult, we are moving toward it." She nodded, stroking my hand. "You are doing a really wonderful job. We really appreciate you staying by our grandson through all of this." Tears were pricking at my eyes. I love him. Simply I could not see walking away, no matter how hard it gets. She muttered a sad smile. "In general, that's what it means to be a parent. It's too bad that our son couldn't understand that. We stood together in quiet for a while and watched the stars come out. Finally, she asked, "Have you heard anything else from him?" I shook my head. "Not since last week. In order to protect himself, he wrote another long email." I said none. She sighed deeply. "This is something I never thought I'd say about my own child, but now he has to deal with it. He chose what to do." As I nodded, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I can't help but wonder if there were signs I missed that would have told me this was going to happen. She put her hand on my shoulder. "Do not be mean to yourself like that. We didn't see this coming at all. He lied to all of us." I began to think about how much had changed in a short time while I was sitting there. I thought I knew what my future would be like a month ago. It was my plan to marry the guy I loved, take care of his special needs son, and start a life together with him. The future is no longer with us. It was replaced by something I never thought possible. I stayed with my ex-fiance's parents and helped raise his child while we were together. My days were filled with therapy appointments, controlling my meltdowns, and a lot of little problems. As I sat on the porch, I realized that even though this wasn't the life I had planned, I was starting to love it. I fell deeply in love with this little boy, because his father had left him. His grandparents could have left this mess, but they took me in as family instead. I did want to yell at times because it was all so unfair, but I also found love, purpose, and a sense of connection that I hadn't expected to find after being betrayed. I heard through the gossip that my ex-fiancé and his ex-wife did move out of state. The police still have their eyes on things. The things he did probably have legal consequences. I mostly just want him to stay away, but I also hope he gets what he deserves for what he did. We are all determined to give his kid the love and security he needs. He should get better. I have no idea what will happen next. I'm right where I need to be right now, though, taking care of a little kid who deserves all the love in the world. I don't think I'll ever fully understand why my ex-boyfriend did what he did. I appreciate all the help you've given me during this tough time. Your helpful comments and words of encouragement have made me want to focus on our new family life and give my ex-spouse's son all the care he needs. That's why I may not post again for a while, but know that your help has truly changed our lives. Thanks for seeing it. Please join and hit the bell to stay up to date on more shocking real-life events happening near you if you haven't already.